All right, guys, today we're going to be talking about detention. So I have a BOL here to use as an example. It's redacted. There's no customer information on it, and I'll throw it up on the screen right next to me now. The one thing I want to tell you about this, because we already know what a BOL is. You guys have already watched that video of what a BOL is. Let's just talk about the detention portion of this, because as brokers, we are responsible for paying carriers detention. It doesn't matter if our customer pays us or if they don't, if they refuse and say, hey, we don't pay detention. I personally do not work with customers that do not pay detention. It's just a ethics to me. It's a moral standpoint where I just won't do it because they don't value a carrier's time. And so I know that they don't really value my time either. So if we just look at this though, we can see that we have our stop actions for the pickup and then the delivery. Now, all the way over on the right, you will see in and out. So this is the important part. Us as brokers, we need to have these in and out times notated and signed by either the shipper or the receiver, depending on where the detention occurred, so that we can submit it for reimbursement because we're going to pay the carrier. So if you look here, it says at 10:07 a.m., the driver checked in. And then at 2:32, which this is p.m. in this case, is when they actually left. So they were there for about 4.5 hours. Now, typically, detention is paid at about $35 to $50 an hour. 50 is pretty standard. You can negotiate it down, but it also depends. On drayage, detention could be much higher, all the way up to over $100 an hour. It's whatever the carrier is offering, and it definitely needs to be discussed before you put the carrier on the load. But let's just assume it's $50 an hour for this carrier, so you have 2.5 hours that you need to pay him. So that's $125. Now, if the carrier did not notate these times and then get them signed by the shipper, which we can see the shipper's the one who signed them. So let's go down and look at the shipper's signature. And that matches. Okay, that's definitely the shipper. The driver's next to it or right underneath it, that's Oscar. And then below that is the receiver, which is Rick. Now, Rick is going to be responsible for signing the delivery times. Did Rick actually sign those times? Let's look at it. In at 11 a.m. and out at 12:17 p.m., but there's no signature. So this means that if there was detention here, which there's not because he was only there for 1 hour and 17 minutes, but without actually getting it signed, we couldn't pay it. Now, it wasn't signed because it doesn't matter because there was no detention. That's the reason why the driver didn't do it, because he definitely did his job at the shipper and got those times signed. So I do want to mention just one more time, if the customer gets this information, okay, and sees that there is detention to be paid and refuses to pay it, that is a customer that you just do not want to work with, in my opinion. However, the main point here, though, is you are still liable to pay the carriers, the drivers, detention. You know, that was his time or her time, and they need to be compensated for that. But now let's talk about if a shipper refuses to sign the times. So if the shipper just says, hey, here's the times, I see him, the driver wrote them down, but I'm not signing that. I'm not going to do that. Then the driver needs to call you immediately and tell you the shipper's not doing this. And then you need to get on the phone with your customer and say, hey, the driver checked in at this time. He's just now leaving. He put the times down, but the person who unloaded him is refusing to sign the in and out times. I just need to know from you real quick, are we going to be okay with this? Can we charge this? And get that up front, because if they're getting told right now, they can make a call if they need to talk to whoever was there loading or unloading and just verify the times that the driver was actually there. That way there's no problems whenever you do go to submit for payment. But in no circumstance should the driver leave before talking to the broker if the shipper or receiver is refusing to sign those times.